Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Weekend Review. I am your Lone Wolf Oozle. We are here, and we are live. And happy Saturday! And ladies and gentlemen, today, we're having a long show. We are celebrating 50K on the channel. Although I don't celebrate that type of thing a whole lot. We're doing it today. We're doing it with Simpson, Middleton, and Cooney. And these are some interesting cases, ladies and gentlemen. These are some interesting cases for sure. We're going to start the morning off with two streamers. Not one, but two. I know most of you have probably seen Taversha, but are you familiar with Galen the Wise, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to meet Galen when Simpson comes up in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Weekend Review. Thank you everybody for coming by. Hey Eileen, hey Barry, hey Rhonda. Hey Kelly, Marty, Mom, I'm sure you're out there. Psychosaurus Rex. Hi, friends. Good to see you too. I gotta go let the puppy inside. I'll be right back. All right, kids. We're getting things spun up here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Metal Rules. Morning for me. It may be noon for you. Get your popcorn and stuff ready. We got a full show ahead. On the Simpson docket this morning, we have two streamers and one Florida man who knows how to make a Michigan judge mad. Then we're moving on to a sentencing hearing for a case that we've seen a little bit of previously. And then we're going to Cooney to hear all about a crazy snowplow. It all starts right now.
Court calls the case of Bourne Graham versus Galen. Is it QB?
Hey, this is Bjorn Graham.
Okay.
Your Honor, it's Keebley.
Galen QB? All right. Very
Keebley.
good. Okay. This is a non-payment of rent case. Sir, how much are you claiming is owed?
Including the month of January, it sums to $4,375.
And Your Honor, that's not correct.
Hold on. Does that include your costs, sir?
No, that's just rent. That's all I'm looking for.
All right. Sir, what's your response to that?
Your Honor, I just checked. I've been paying over Venmo. I've offered to pay Bjorn rent since October. I've had the money, and we're on a month-to-month lease, so he's told me several different things. First, he told me, because I couldn't pay the rent for 2 months because I got laid off from my job, but I'm making money now, but I don't have enough to move out. So basically, he just wants me out, and he told me, don't give me the rent money because it'd be easier in court for me to just kick you out when I want you out. So instead of working with me because I'm not on my feet, he just wants me out, and he's saying, "Oh, I hope stuff gets worse for you and all that," because I basically blew up on social media.
But let me ask you this.
You know,
The amount that he wants to pay is incorrect. How much do you believe you owe?
$26.78. On June 27th, I paid $625 for July rent. And he also did not factor in I gave him a month rent security deposit. That's an extra $625.
Well, that doesn't come off of anything at this point.
Okay, well there would be at least an additional $447 of payments that I've made. And this is when he's told me to not give him any money at all. I still been sending him some money because he seemed like he was kind of on the fence. Like,
okay, so
he might
sir,
let me stay, so.
Sir, the $26.78, you have that money?
No, like I get paid once a week, so it's not like I made a lot at first, but my income kind of fluctuates. Because it's kind of like tips based. So, I made a significant amount, but I don't have like savings. But so it would be whatever.
Sir, have you attempted to get any resources to help you get paid up?
I don't know.
Even with the amount that you're claiming is owed?
Well, it's like basically since we're on a month-to-month lease, like he wouldn't even accept the rent if I offered it to him.
Okay, I understand that, but have you sought any other type of assistance?
No, Your Honor, but I would do so if I knew the resources available.
All right. Do you have your monthly rent is $625?
Yeah, I don't have it now, but I could have paid him this month. Like I offered.
Okay, I didn't ask you that.
No, currently I don't.
You do not currently have $625?
I do not, Your Honor. No.
All right.
I was just gonna give you the amount. So based on my math, if you're excluding the security deposit, which he told me he plans to keep, which is an additional $625, I have $33.03. And I could send proof of the dates I made payments. I paid on May 3rd, 57, June 20th, 10.
Sir,
sorry.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to adjourn this matter out to February 14th, 2025 at 1 p.m. That's in person. Both of you must be here. You paid through Venmo, so you need to bring me your Venmo receipts. And then plaintiff needs to bring a ledger.
A ledger
being an accounting of what he's paid or hasn't paid.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
And bring that in and we'll figure out exactly where you are and if it's going to be paid and how we're going to do this. All right. So that's February 14th, 2025, 1 p.m. in person.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court calls the case, the people are Jared Lepick versus Andrew Elliott.
Hello, Your Honor. I'm Jordan Lepick. I'm also on this case. Jared Lepick, unfortunately, was diagnosed with influenza A this morning, so he had his Zoom going and can mic in if need be, but he's got very little of a voice left at this point.
Okay. All right. And yes, I do see him signed in. All right. Andrew Elliott or Traversia, is it Burrell?
Traversia Borelli.
Okay, sorry.
That's
all right. Okay, what are we doing on this case?
Last week, sir, you had asked if they be out of the house before the hearing today. And as of right now, they're still moving stuff out of the property. There's still people on property, including a couple of unauthorized additional roommates that weren't included in the lease. And we have yet to get in contact with Mr. Elliott. He is the named person on our lease. So we would just like to see what his status is. We haven't heard from him since the 7th. And the last thing we received from him in writing was an email admitting to the debt owed and the wrongdoing on his part, stating that he can provide the court of a copy with this email. In his own words, he states, "We will obviously not refute what you are owed. We have no intention to. We would honor the court decision of the debt, which would additionally include legal fees. Given our contract is under the laws of Michigan, there is very little that can be garnished as the bulk of my earnings are earned as independent contractor." In this email, he proposed a payment plan that we were uncomfortable with agreeing to because he's offered us specific payment arrangements over the last.
Can I stop you, please?
Absolutely.
All right. How much are you claiming is owed?
So as of right now, he owes $15,000 plus court costs of $234.43. If I may, could I give you like 90 seconds of backstory, sir?
Not really.
Okay.
Your Honor,
I don't know that I'm necessarily going to need it.
Okay.
Ma'am, are you moving out?
Yes, we've returned the key. I have a couple of friends currently helping me move out the remaining things. I'm actually at the U-Haul Center right now, and they are getting the rest of the items out presently under the supervision of the land manager.
Okay. So, and ma'am, are you disputing the amount they're claiming is owed?
I am.
You are?
Yes, I am. We
okay.
owe.
How much do you think you owe?
So we owe December and January. That's $10,000. We paid a $1,000 late fee in November and a $2,000 late fee in September and October. We believe that these should be subtracted from the total owed due to illegality of those fees. Also, we were
how much is monthly rent?
Your Honor, monthly rent is $5,000 a month. This is a 4,000 square foot house that we were under contract for them to purchase. And we have done a series of short-term leases as they were waiting on the sale.
Okay, so here's the thing. Is she right about, she just listed off, I think, $4,000 of late fees that they paid?
No, sir, that is incorrect. Those were from the previous lease. See, at first we did a 60-day lease, and then we extended that once their house was not sold. So we have 2 prior leases to this short-term lease, and we only enforce late fees on one of the months under those leases. And I can submit documentation of all this, sir.
So can I.
All right.
I do have claims that ACHs were sent that were never received to my account, sir, as well as proof of funds that I received in December and no payment was made out of that. The last communication I had about a payment arrangement was on December 13th, and I was informed by Mr. Elliott that day that his wife had sent an ACH. However,
Okay, look, folks. Oh, ma'am.
Yes.
Here's what's going to happen. What date are you going to be out of the premises?
We're already out.
Your stuff
You're
is still
already out.
Right.
Your stuff-
And they have surrendered the keys.
Yes, and it's in the process of being removed as we speak. So we are out. It'll be another hour or two, I think, before it's all of our stuff is gone.
So then the only issue is what's owed.
Right. I also want to bring up, if I may, Your Honor, we were subjected to a wrongful lockout, so we are due 3 times damages of the $150 for a locksmith as outlined in Michigan's anti-lockout statute, totaling $450, which I also have evidence of.
Okay. All right,
Your
look, folks.
Your Honor, I'm
Yes.
in my house because they failed to pay rent. I have 6 children. These people make $350,000 a year is what they claimed on the rental application. I'm going to lose health insurance tomorrow, and my house is going into a foreclosure period as of tomorrow is 90 days late. They have money. They had subletters or whoever living with them, and I don't know if they were running a homeless shelter, if they were pocketing the rent that their roommates paid. They've
No.
just been sitting in my house, sir.
This is incorrect.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. Possession has been granted. There are 2 parts to the case. Possession's been granted or surrendered to the plaintiff. So possession is not.
Sorry.
Pardon?
There are still people at the house. One of them had a residence established there, apparently. They're still at the house, and unfortunately, our property manager expired at noon today, as it is the last day of the month. So any clean out of anything left behind, I'm going to have to go assess for any damages left on my own next week.
All right. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. They've surrendered possession of the unit. Ma'am, to your knowledge, are there people in the premises?
Yes, there
Ms.
is.
Burrell, are there people still in the premises?
I don't know. I would have to text them. I don't know if they're on the premises presently, but we were told that we could get the remainder of the items out. So they would be doing that if they are not presently at the U-Haul Center where I am now. I'm just using my phone to do this.
Possession to the premises has been surrendered. Ma'am, as of given everything that I'm hearing, your management contract expires at midnight tonight? Is that the deal, or?
Yeah, yes. And we can't afford to pay
All
a
right.
property manager anymore.
Hang on. I hear you. I'm just trying to, because you're in North Carolina, right?
Yes, sir. But I will have to make
Okay.
a trip up to North Carolina to assess anything.
I know. I guess you're out of state. You've got a property manager here that won't be the property manager tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
So what? I should let you guys talk, and then I'll just go back and then come back out. Because either you're going to listen to me or not. Possession's been surrendered. I'm going to grant to the plaintiff the authority to prevent waste under 4.201I, that you may lock and secure the premises effective 3:00 today. The reason I'm doing that is so that you can get your property manager, go over there you can order a locksmith, you can change the locks at 3 p.m. today. Whatever else needs to get out, if you don't get it out by that time, you said you surrendered, you're giving them the keys, they giving you grace to get some of the stuff out. If it's not out, not out.
That's
But the
perfectly fine, Your
premises
Honor.
will be locked.
Thank you.
Then the issue regarding the money is going to have to be done. Now, I might as well, because the parties don't seem to agree, set this matter for trial. You have to come up next week. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so trying to time this, if you come up, how long are you going to be up here?
Very short amount of time, sir, as I have children in North Carolina in school. So a day.
Okay.
Enough.
So if I set, well, I was just going to set this for a trial. So I can set a trial date, but I'm going to need the parties in person because apparently there's going to be a lot of documentation. So I'm trying to set it. So here's what I'll do. Because we're really talking about the money, but we got to get the premises secured first. So we've dealt with that. What's my date? March the 4th? The 11th. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a non-jury trial as to the money issues for March 11th, 2025 at 9 a.m. That's in person. So I've tried to set that, ma'am, I tried to set it out far enough so that you could make arrangements or do what needs to be done to come up. We'll hear it that day. So if it has to be a one-day trip, it's a one-day trip. But I've just tried to put it out to, well, I think you get what I'm saying. Okay?
Absolutely.
But I'm allowing you to secure the premises. You're going to come up here, check on it. That way you can assess what damages or other things there may be there. Bring ledgers, all other documentation you want the court to look at on March 11th, and then we'll hear your case. Okay?
Your Honor, might I ask one question?
Sure.
Rather than pushing it out, I can make arrangements. I will make it work. Like I said, we're actually going into a 90-day foreclosure period tomorrow. And so time is kind of of essence.
Got it. Then the best I could do is the 18th. What day? Yeah. But the best I could then do is February 18th. I could push it up to that day. Will that be better for you?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
So non-jury trial in this matter then will be set for February 18th, 2025, 9 a.m. Okay.
And one more question. Will Mr. Lepek have to appear as well, or will me be appearing sufficient just because he can't afford time off of work right now?
Well, he might want to have himself, if you're here, he may want to have himself. I will allow understanding childcare, work, those things. I would allow him to appear via Zoom.
Thank you. And as far as Mr.
So that he's present, but you will have to be here in person.
Understood. And Mr. Elliott?
He needs to appear. If he doesn't appear, then I do what I got to do.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor,
Thank you.
may I ask a question?
Sure.
My partner might not be able to get off work either, but I can show up. Is that a problem?
I will give you the same. Okay. I will give you the same opportunities that I give the other side in fairness. So you may appear, but he would have to be available via Zoom.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Scott Stone versus Kevin Smith.
Yes, Your Honor.
State your names.
Michael
Kevin J.
Stone.
Smith, sir.
Where are we on this?
He has failed to pay me any rent or for the utilities since June of last year and refuses to pay. And I wish you to order a 10-day where he'll be removed by the sheriff within 10 days.
And did you send a copy of this information to him?
Yes, sir, I did. He received it yesterday at 2:33 p.m.
You have the document?
Yes, text messages and yeah, it's nothing, Your Honor. He's just.
So I'm gonna have to
confuse
set
you.
this for trial. I do my trials in person. You're down in Florida. He's here. When I read through them, they're at least what potentially could be colorable defenses. I don't know until I hear the testimony.
Your Honor, I'm a working man. I make $24 an hour and I'm paying his rent and utilities. I'm living off credit cards.
Sir, you know, every time you come here, you try to tell me how this is going to be.
No,
You have property here in Michigan. You may be down in Florida. You may be a working man. I consider myself that too. This happens to be my job. Part of my job is setting a date for these trials to get them resolved. Now, if what you want to do week after week is sit here and try to lecture me on what Michigan law should do, then I'll just keep setting it every week. He'll come back. You'll just try to give me that lecture and we'll just move on. I'm trying to resolve the case. So I'm going to set a trial date.
So today's not the trial date?
No,
Okay.
I'm going to set a trial date. Maybe you didn't appreciate what I said. That
Yes.
trial date will be in person.
Well,
If you had listened to the case before, I realize there are people out of state. I will try to accommodate that the best I can. So I'm going to set a trial date in person. I can set it for February 18th or March 11th.
Your Honor,
Your
can
preference?
can I have an attorney represent me there?
February 18th, sir. The reason being is because
I don't care.
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't ask that. Can you be here February 18th, sir, for a trial?
Can I hire an attorney to represent me there?
Pardon?
Can I have an attorney be there present for me?
Absolutely. You can have an attorney here.
Okay.
That might be wise because then I don't get lectured.
Yes, Your Honor. So,
Non-jury trial in this matter
Your Honor.
will be set February 18th,
Yes, Your Honor.
2025, 9 a.m. in person. I
Yes.
will allow testimony over Zoom, but there needs to be a party here. Yes, sir.
Is on what basis is any of this evidence going to allow him to continue to stay there free? I don't understand.
Pardon?
There's nothing in any of this that it gives him the right to continue to stay there for free. I don't understand.
Then get an attorney, and then maybe then you'll have some clarification if you listen to him.
Okay. I don't understand his claim of how he can continue to stay there for free. There's nothing in those paperwork.
Okay, just because you rephrase the question doesn't change my answer.
Okay. All right. So I will have an
Sir,
attorney.
you had a question?
not a question, Your Honor, a statement that I would like to make, please.
Oh. About what?
Mr. Stone and the status of the condominium, sir.
And the status of the condominium
Yes, sir.
in terms of, go ahead. It's got to be brief, and I may cut you off.
Yes, sir. Very brief, very short. Mr. Stone has known since, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Mr. Stone has known since 2022 that he should have the place registered as a rental property. Mr. Stone received.
That is a defense, and that you will raise at a trial.
Yes,
I
sir.
set a trial date, and God help me, I'll be here to hear all of it.
Yes, sir.
18th,
9 a.m. sir.
9 a.m. in person. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, the next case is a Simpson, not a Simpson case, a Middleton case. We have actually seen the predecessor to this case. This is the young lady who came in who had the big mark on her face, said she vaulted herself off of a couch into a wall or something like that. We're here for her sentencing today. And ladies and gentlemen, It's an interesting sentencing, and we're just going to go ahead and get back into it.
This is the time and date for sentencing. The matter of People versus Tricia Marie Haskins, also known as Tricia Marie Tepfer. She's here with her lawyer, Rhonda Ives. And Miss Ives was caught in a difficult circuit court case, just finished. She let the court know she may be delayed. Mr. Gary Gabriel is here on behalf of the prosecuting attorney's office. Randy Tepfer, the complainant in the case, called and said he was running late and he was trying to get here. He wanted to, quote, be here for his wife. Then he called a little bit later and he was upset because he'd been in an automobile accident and wasn't going to be able to be here. I think we have a phone number and maybe we'll see if we can get a hold of him by telephone. Anyway, the defendant pled to a charge of domestic violence. She was released and then she was with Mr. Tepfer in violation of her bond conditions. I canceled the bond and set the matter for sentencing today. Ms. Ives, what would you like me to know?
Well, Your Honor, I'm worried about my client in this matter. I mean, I know she pled guilty. I know she understands that it took two to get into this argument, and it sounds like there might have been alcohol involved, but I also worry about the controlling nature of her husband. We've talked about her perhaps separating. I mean, only she knows what the right answer is, but I would ask the court to consider time served. I really do believe that he pushes her buttons, is very controlling, and just in the phone calls I received, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he reached out to me and basically said he had enough of his wife not being at home and that he was going to go to the prosecutor's office and make sure this case got dismissed. And I said, well, she's already pled. And there was an indication that they were going to charge her with a felony, and she ended up pleading, taking responsibility, and she's going to be sentenced. And I told him the day. I said, if you want to make a statement, you could be present on the sentencing date. And I don't know if he spoke with the victim's advocate, but just his demeanor towards me and how his wife should be home with him makes me, I put this on the record more for my client's benefit, because I feel like if she continues to perhaps stay in a relationship with him, she might find herself arrested and with further altercations, because he definitely sounds like he pushes her buttons, and certainly was trying to do the same to me. And I'm concerned for her, and that is where my position is on the case, Your Honor. I believe she has she should receive time served. The court perhaps put her on probation so she can get some treatment and figure out what direction she's going to take in her life. Well, which is almost gotten released. Okay.
All right, very good, thanks.
I guess her father is in the courtroom with us.
Her father's here, and the officer who was working the accident is actually bringing Randy here, so we'll allow him to say his piece. Mr. Gabriel, I suspect you don't disagree with a lot of what Ms. Ives said about the nature of this relationship. What's the prosecutor's input here?
In a lot of ways, Your Honor, I wish Mr. Teffler would be here to hear my input. I think
well, we can stall a little bit if you'd like to wait for him to get here. Said he was 5
maybe
minutes
in
out.
light of some of the things I read in the police report and the victim impact statement that I have in front of me now, if we could wait a little bit, I think.
Well, we got all afternoon, so at least I do. So
I'm not going anywhere
we'll
until you tell me I can.
All right. He probably needs to hear what you have to say too. You have that bruise on your cheek that looks better than the last time I saw you. I told you I was somewhat skeptical of your version of how you got it, but I wasn't there. So, you've been in jail now for 12 days. You were in jail at the front end for 2 days, so I believe you have 14 days of jail credit. All right. Let's sit here and wait and hopefully, but one person's definition of 5 minutes and another's are two different things, but he is in a police car and the accident was somewhere between Sturgis and here, so he probably is not very far out. Let me ask this while we're waiting, Ms. Haskins. If you don't go back to Randy's place, have you got somewhere to go?
I was hoping my father's.
All right, Mr. Haskins, is that an option for her to come stay with you?
Temporarily.
I'm sorry?
Temporarily.
Temporarily.
Yes.
All right. But I don't want is you out standing on the
In the cold.
doorstep of the jail in the cold.
Yeah, no, I totally could find a place. I am clean. I can get a job quickly. I definitely have some decisions to make, and I wish I would have never let it get this far because it wasn't me. It wasn't me who's been the aggressor. It looks like it on there because he's got these cameras and he needs some help. He needs some mental help. And I had him admitting it, and now he's denying it. And it's just so all over the place. And it's starting to ruin.
Well, you said something. You were pretty straight up. He got in your face and you slapped him. And then you said something like,
Set the phone out of his hand.
I tried to watch the video and I wasn't able to obtain it.
I actually caught the corner of the phone, and I never.
All right, let's wait till he
Okay.
gets here. You said something like he deserves to get slapped or something like that.
I did probably say that. Yes, absolutely.
This is an ongoing issue between Randa and Tricia. In January alone, we have had 5 calls of service involving them.
Some of the calls were definitely false because they had showed up and we hadn't even been disagreeing or anything. So I'm not sure why there were so many, honestly,
Yeah, what does that tell you?
that we shouldn't be together.
Well, that's not for me to decide, but you certainly have a toxic relationship.
Correct. Yes, it's definitely not going anywhere healthy. But I'm definitely not a threat to him or anybody else. I mean, I had a girl get in my face in jail. I'm not gonna hit nobody. I'm not gonna strike nobody. I don't want nobody paying up against nobody.
The video has clearly stated that Tricia wanted Randy to put the phone down. That it appeared that Tricia struck him 2 or 3 times in the head to make him drop the phone. He had an injury to the left side of his head below his left eye, one on the bridge of his nose, and an injury to the right wrist.
I guess I should have started reporting it a long time ago when he started doing things to me, because he's been the aggressor.
Well,
It's
that's-
here nor there, but
that's not uncommon that a female defendant is in a relationship and has been subject to an abusive relationship. And then on the day of the offense, the female version of the couple assaults him. It's not a defense. It might be a sentence factor. But you're telling me how terrible it is, and I told you not to go back there, and then you voluntarily went back.
you're right. I'm wrong.
So I didn't accomplish much. Anyway, I thought I would hold on to you until we got this resolved and give you some time to think about it. Female says she just doesn't beat him enough. The new prosecutors, victim advocates did try to contact the complainant earlier this week, last week, and he never responded.
Your Honor, you don't have his most recent victim impact dated 1/28/25?
No, I don't.
Would you care to?
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
I don't.
I
it
have
either,
Miss
so-
Ackerman's attempt to contact him last week.
No, it's one
But
of his
I-
signature and what he wrote, so that's the same.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything negative.
Time served and counseling for both of them. All right, thank you. That's where I guessed he was coming from. Here he is now. Please have a seat, sir. Thank you for being here. The officer just dropped you off at the front door?
Yes.
Do you have a way back?
No.
We'll take care of that with a bus pass if we need to. All right, we had started the sentencing in People versus Tricia Marie Hankins Tepfer. We heard from Rhonda Ives. Mr. Gabry from the prosecutor's office had input to provide. We heard you were on the way, so we just paused our proceedings to wait for you to get here. So the complainant, Mr. Randy Tepfer, is here now. Mr. Gabry, I'd be happy to hear what you want to tell me now.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, as the court indicated, I kind of wanted to have Mr. Tepfer here when I spoke. He did, as I understand it, meet with Ms. Davis, and that interview seems to be someone from our office. I'm assuming it was Ms. Davis because she conveyed the information to me, and the information she conveyed to me was consistent with what I presented to the court regarding a victim statement he made on January 28th of 2025. That primarily asking, taking some responsibility for the whole event, as well as professing his feelings for his wife and asking the court to consider time served. Court's aware this a 93-day misdemeanor. It's aware that it seems to be an ongoing history. The court already commented on some statements in the call log as far as the defendant saying she just doesn't beat him enough at 9/27/44. Your Honor, you and I both have been in the criminal justice system for a very long time, and we recall early on in our careers when law enforcement was being called upon to primarily calm and cool things down and then leave the parties. And we've seen the evolution of that to the point where law enforcement has to be recognized as exactly that. They're there to enforce the law. This couple has apparently involved law enforcement at least 5 times in the recent past, if not since this occurred. That's not really clear from the.
I thought it was in the month of January.
Yeah, that's kind of what I read too, and it seemed excessive. I know one thing popped on my desk about the complainant being upset that somebody didn't tell him she was out, and then she violated her bond, and then I read this. Your Honor, you're well aware. I mean, law enforcement's trained to enforce the law. They're not trained to be counselors, mediators, and the statement by the complainant here that, gee, I did not wish charges pressed upon Tricia and did not want to see her go to jail. He just wanted police officers there to mediate the situation. I guess my reason for speaking is I want the parties to understand that going forward, that's not going to be the position of the prosecutor's office. Court's well aware that we convicted a man yesterday of domestic violence before Judge Pattison. If police officers come and they have probable cause, we're going to look very seriously at whether or not we're just going to go, oh, okay, they don't want to cooperate anymore.
Right.
Sometimes we've got to back the police to say, we don't want you going into those situations as counselors. We want you going in there as law enforcement officers. And I wanted Mr. Tefler to hear that too. They're not divorce counselors. I think these parties need help. I concur with what Ms. Ives is concerned about. I know we don't have the power to make Mr. Teffer do anything, but boy, if these two people are going to live together, this is not a cartoon thing like the Bickersons. People get hurt, and you never can control how much that hurt happens. Maybe it's not intended, but a slap and a hit on the head, and you might have a death. So I know Ms. Davis is very serious about domestic violence. She's impressed that upon me. And so to the extent I'll be in district court, I intend on being so also.
I think you already were. That same mindset. All right, Ms. Haskins, what would you like me to know?
I would like you to know that I am sorry for breaking my bond and not staying away like you told me to.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about this. I let you out on the 10th and you got arrested on the 18th. I believe Randy called 911.
Right.
So you're already back arguing.
I wasn't even arguing that day.
He said they had been verbally arguing, but nothing physical had occurred. How many days had you been there before he called the police on the 18th?
One day. He asked me to come over and stay. And so I came, and I actually was going to bed. I had no glasses, no nothing. I just taken a shower, get ready to lay down. And all of a sudden over the Bluetooth, I hear 911. I just started flipping because I'm like, what the heck just happened? I couldn't find my keys. Once again, I had to leave with nothing, my glasses, nothing. Had my purse, took off walking because I didn't do anything wrong. He asked me to come to the house.
All right.
And I know we weren't supposed to be together, but we weren't even there was no like shuffle. There was no disagreement. He was literally doing the dishes and gonna come lay down. And all of a sudden, that's what I'm saying. There's some stuff not connecting inside that I really love him and I wish he would get help. I'll get help with him. I don't know, even just being friends, I don't know.
Well, that's what he recommends is counseling for both. Let's hear from him. Mr. Tepfer, why don't you come up to the podium? No, right there.
Here, sir.
This is the bench, that's the podium. All right, so the incident went down on December 28th. She went to jail. She got out on the 30th. What would you like me to know about how you feel about this? I did get your victim statement, Mr. Gabriel shared with me. And what you told the clerk on the phone is that you wanted to be here for Patricia. I was actually going to call you to get your input, but you're here now. What do you want me to know?
I want you to know that there's a lot of gray area. I know there's a black and white when it comes to law, but there's a lot of gray, a lot of emotions and feelings here. Her and I both have a history and a past of being abused and hurt. We met and she told me her testimony and what she's been through, raped and abuse. And I have also, my dad was a monster. I have scars on my face from my dad. I have PTSD, severe anxiety. So let's move forward. We bought a home. First time homeowners a year ago, September, 14 months now, 15 months we've been in our home.
Is the home in both of your names?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I put her on the deed. She's not on the loan, but I wanted to make sure she knew that she was part of this house. So I put her on the deed. Shortly after that, I lost my job in February 26th of 2024, literally 4 or 5 months after we bought a home. It's because I hurt my foot out at working 10, 12-hour days, steel-toed boots, cement floors. I had surgery on my foot, and then 2 months later, I broke the same foot. And then I went into work, 160/100 blood pressure. February 26th, they let me go that day.
Where were you working?
Now, Rogue Tool.
Okay.
Rogue Tool for 11 years. Now, we're falling behind. There's a lot of stresses. She seems to have a quick fuse when things aren't going the way she expects them to go. I may exaggerate that in my head. That's why I want to get help, because I feel like sometimes I'm in a vacuum, I'm in a tunnel when she is yelling, and she knows I have PTSD. She's even mentioned I want to learn how to communicate with someone with PTSD, high anxiety. I really appreciated that. She actually mentioned that recently. So I'm hoping that we can go forward with that.
Well, let me ask this. She says you called her up and said, hey, come over. So she comes over, she's at your joint house, and then you call the cops. That doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't, because first of all, I went over and I took her close to her and she was, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? I want to come home. I miss our babies, which is the 2 kitties and our dog. I miss you. In her head, this wasn't necessary, but we have already been through the courts and this is where we were. I took her stuff. We did communicate that day. I felt really bad. I felt sad for her. I felt bad. It's hard for my health, my emotions. She's the only one that can comfort me when I am going through an anxiety attack. And I missed that. And I felt that coming on. And I said, sure, come over. She came over. I mentioned some things about her not being faithful to me. She said, that's not true. That's my imagination. I gave her some reasons why. She didn't appreciate that. She talks over me, wouldn't let me talk. She stepped forward. She talks with her hands. I called them just for her to hear the 911. I thought that would calm her down, but they came and she took off walking and they arrested her.
Well, what it got her was 12 days in jail.
Well, she talks with her hands. She's poking at me. She's yelling. Now the prosecutor talks about the police not being mediators. From the very first time we called, if you guys need any help, you need to talk, let me know. And I think that was more on a personal level now that I'm thinking about it, from Cody Middle. He was talking about, because I know Cody from working at Baroque Tool before he became a police officer. And when I called them the second time, they said that we can mediate. You guys are just wanting us here to mediate. Yes, I don't want any problems. Well, okay. You know, what is your problem? And they would talk to both of our sides, and then they would tell us that we just need help. We got to calm our anger. I have learned that I am supposed to find something that's real and call it out. Find something that I can touch just to bring me back from that trauma that I had as a boy. So I am getting help and I am learning some things. Now, I did not call the police unnecessarily because she can be violent. She hit me in the first place. That's what brought us here. And so now I don't want it to get any further. And if they can come and mediate her and maybe put some fear in her to slow down.
That ain't gonna happen. Now, when I first saw her, 12 days ago, she had a great big fresh shiner, big black eye. She said she hit a wall. Do you know anything about that?
I was in the shower. And I heard a bang on the outside of the wall of the shower. A couple minutes later, she came in and her whole face. I said, what is going on? What happened? She said that she was up on the back of the couch adjusting we have blinds, they're strips. Oh, they're crazy. They're terrible. They fall down, they get crooked. She was up there trying to put one up or fix it. She said that she stepped off the couch and she bounced. And I have questioned her repeatedly about this. 12 feet across the room and hit her face flat on the wall for that to look like it looked like a fist fight that she was in. And we just got company, not but 5 minutes before this happened. I was in the shower. She was fearful to even answer the door. And I don't know what was going on. They were friends of hers. Anyway, they were friends of hers. She answered the door. Roughly 5 minutes later, I hear a big bang on the outside of the wall. She comes in. She said that she was up fixing the blinds. She stepped off the couch and she bounced across the room and hit her face on the wall. And I questioned her that repeatedly. And she told me to not push it, not press it. And that's what happened. I am not physical. I do not raise my hand.
She doesn't accuse you of it, but and I said I wasn't there. So while you were in the shower, someone came to the door.
That's correct. Can I speak, please? Yeah. Am I right? That was
and it wasn't my friends, it was our friends. Okay. And I didn't want to be in that room with them because you don't trust me for some silly reason, because I've never stepped out of my marriage. I will stand on that till my dying day. I've never been unfaithful. But yes, I didn't want to answer the phone or the door because there was a guy and a lady. I knew the lady, I didn't know the guy. So therefore, you shouldn't have gotten in the shower. But yes, I did. My klutzy butt did jump off the couch. What I did was went to catch my fall, and I flew into the wall, and it exaggerated the impact worse because I was trying to catch my stumble. So anyway, yeah, it was a bit crazy.
I was sick about it. I was very sad, very sick about it because her face was really, messed up for a little while.
All right, Mr. Tepfer, I'm gonna give you a couple of bus passes to get you.
But I want you to
Can you
know,
call someone to get you, or do you need a bus pass?
I do need a bus pass. That would be great. But I wonder, I want you to know, please, sir, that this was so important to me to speak on my wife's behalf, that I was running late and I got here as fast as I can. I ended up getting my car towed. I just wanted to speak. I wanted to see her. And I wanted to speak on her behalf and say how sorry I am. I think a lot of this, at first, it wasn't exaggerated, but then because of the first incident, I started maybe exaggerating things. And when I was first told that the police could mediate, that's what I was under the impression. But I understand that they've got work to do, and I am sorry for calling them. And I don't believe it was 5 times.
Somebody else was calling, remember we would be hanging out and they just also.
Oh,
show
that's
up.
true. There was a couple times they would just show up and we believe that was just friends. That was, I don't know, because we was quiet even.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think I called them 3 times. But that's 2 times too many. I love my wife. I have PTSD, so I do exaggerate loud noises. I exaggerate frustrations.
His mom passed away too.
My mom just passed
My
away
mother-in-law.
2 days ago. But that I just wanted you to know that I love my wife and it's hurting me to not be together. This PPO for us not to be around each other.
Well, there
together.
isn't a PPO, it's a bond condition, and I'm gonna lift it. But you're at risk of getting arrested every time he cries wolf. And you're also at risk of losing your temper and
I'm gonna get help.
hitting him. You're also at risk of him hitting you. Your father's offered a place for you to go. That might be the best place in the interim. I'm not gonna say you can't live together, but you need to quit calling the cops. And if I knew what I knew now, I put her in jail for 12 days because you invited her over to your house, then called the cops when you didn't like it and had her picked up on the bond condition.
That's not exactly accurate, sir.
Well, that's what happened.
Yes.
So have a seat, Mr. Tepfer. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for being here. I don't know what to say. You both love each other. You both got lots of baggage, both got PTSD, childhood trauma, which visits itself on adults and causes problems like this, substance abuse issues. You've struggled with that. This does not seem to be alcohol or drug related, just anger. I'm going to order 14 days jail credit, 14 days. Fine and cost is $0. Crime victims' rights fee is $75. There's a $50 state minimum fee. There's drugs in the past, and I don't get the sense that this was related to that, but don't go down that rabbit hole.
No, thank you. Been there.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna give you the minimum allowable fine. Ms. Ives earned her fee here, but I'm gonna waive it. You owe me $125 by February 28th. All right, you take that with you. If you need more time, you contact the court. Mr. Haskins, they're gonna take her back to the jail. You can pick her up at the jail, and then you can decide where you wanna go. I'm not prohibiting you from having contact, but I have certain fears that are shared by the prosecutor. If I don't hear any more about this, that would make me happy. I've known both of you for a long time. And it would be fine with me if I didn't see any more in 2025.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Tepfer, the bailiffs can help you call the bus, I think. Ms. Haskins, you're gonna go back to the jail. Mr. Haskins, I'd ask if you'd pick her up there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for waiting for me, sir.
All right, thank you for making the effort to get here. I'm sorry, now you gotta mess around with a car tow. I was gonna call you, but it's better to have you here live and in person because The lawyers wanted you to hear what they had to say as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, you guys can figure out where you go from here. All right, that completes our abbreviated afternoon. We had as much time as we needed to devote to that case.
Well, that was an interesting case of love gone all wrong. Next, we're going to see what happens when your next door neighbor happens to be the same guy who does the snow plowing, and they're also the guy who runs the homeowners association, and they really, really, really don't like you. Yeah, it's as interesting as it sounds. At least I think it is. You tell me what you think. We're coming up with Judge Cooney right now.
Mr. Hubble, do you want to come on up to the council table with your client?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, this is file 1419 of 2024, People versus David Briggs Jr. Good morning, sir. And Mr. Hubble is here on behalf of the defendant, Mr. Olson for the people, and Ms. Morton from our probation office is on the screen there. So this is a probation violation hearing. I'm assuming we're going forward with the hearing. Is that right, Mr. Hubble?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So is there anything we need to take up before we get started with testimony?
Well, Your Honor, I do anticipate to be able to show some videos. Ms. Morton would join us by Zoom. I could try maybe to zoom in and share my screen with that screen.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll try that way.
Okay. Is that what you want to do first, or did you want to take some testimony?
I'll take some testimony first.
Okay.
We could call Jerry Blended, stand your honor.
Go ahead, Mr. Olson.
Mr. Blem, you live on Mary Chris Lane, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you're familiar with Mr. David Briggs, is that correct?
I am.
Where does he reside in relation to the property where you and your husband live?
Out my front door, he is to the right of my property, and there's an empty lot between us.
From your vantage point of your parking of your driveway, are you able to see his driveway?
I am.
During this past winter, winter of 2024 through the current, have you had any issues as it relates to Mr. Briggs plowing along Mary Chris Road in front of your house?
Yes.
Can you describe for the court kind of what's transpired, and when you, as you do so, provide an approximate time frame of what you observed, what you were doing, and what you observed as it relates to Mr. Briggs?
After we left here the first time in probate court and everything was settled, and Mr. Briggs was told not to plow in front of our house or adjacent to our property, he would only not plow in front of our house if I was out plowing my driveway. He would lift his plow up at the beginning of my property and at the end of the property. If I was not out in my driveway and I was inside of the house, Mr. Briggs would plow past our house, throw the snow back into our driveway. There's been numerous times, we actually had to put a camera out, and I would plow my driveway and get the driveway all plowed, put the snow blower away, and you could almost count the minutes before he would get in his truck and plow snow back in the driveway again.
This incident that you're describing of you blowing out the driveway with your snow blower, while you're doing that, do you see Mr. Briggs at all outside?
I do.
And where is he standing?
Normally he's in his truck plowing. I've seen him standing at the end of the driveway when I've been out talking to the neighbors across the street.
And can you just elaborate on the sequence of events? As you're finishing the clearing of your driveway, do you ever see Mr. Briggs standing outside of his residence?
I have seen him, yes.
And then how shortly after that, after you
I would say less than 10 or 15 minutes after, he would get in his truck and literally start plowing, and I would because he wasn't supposed to be plowing in front of our house. I would plow our road in front of our house because it had to get plowed. And he would still plow the snow back into our driveway.
How many times, based on your recollection, how many times has that type of pattern happened?
Well, it's happened until he finally hired Elmer's to take over the plowing of the snow. And one time Mr. Briggs was out with his yellow tractor and I didn't know what he was up to. So I actually went over purposely in front of him and adjusted the camera on my tree so he would see that we had a camera out the road.
Was there another time where your car was parked out on Mary Chris Road and you were attending to something in your car?
Yes, I pulled out my car to take my aunt to a medical appointment, and I did not have my snow tires on my car, and my car got stuck. So I had to get out on the road and put salt and cat litter underneath my tires, let it set for a few minutes, and Mr. Briggs was coming the other direction. And he flashed his lights at me a couple times, and I was actually out on the road looking to see if the salt had melted, and so I could get my car unstuck. And he just didn't, just came by us as normal.
And in that incident that you're describing, could you see Mr. Briggs driving the vehicle?
Absolutely, yes.
And you see Mr. Briggs in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you describe where he is in the courtroom and article of clothing he's wearing?
He's sitting to the right of me with a leather jacket on and a purple shirt.
And record reflecting court identification, Mr. Briggs?
It will.
Did you and your husband also supply the prosecuting attorney's office with videos?
We did.
And are those videos taken from the camera that you have in the front of your property?
Yes.
At this time, I would like to I'd like to play these videos and have Mr. Glenn describe what's transpiring in them.
Okay, any objection, Mr. Hubble?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
So I pulled up a series of videos. There's, I don't know if you can see it from there, but the top video shows a main road, and then there's 2024-12-3. Is that an automatic date and time stamp that's placed on the on the recording? So I'm going to show you the first one that is appears to be December 3rd, and it shows there's a 12_38_50. Is that the time that video is taking place? Is that an example of the plow being driven by your house?
Yes.
Were you able, did you capture, was this captured automatically by your camera on your house?
It was.
Or did you have an occasion to be able to independently observe who the driver was?
I did.
How did you do that?
I was just standing right in front of my window of my living room.
And could you observe who the driver was?
Yes.
Who did you observe the driver to be?
Mr. Briggs.
This next video, it looks like it's dated December 4th at 2:35 or 12:35 p.m. Play that for you. And what's happening in that video?
That was me finishing up snow plowing our driveway.
The next video I'm going to show you is same date, approximately, it's at 12:41 p.m., a few minutes later. And what did you observe in that video?
Mr. Briggs again getting in his car right after I got done plowing my driveway and throwing snow back in it again.
And on that particular incident, where were you when Mr. Briggs drove by?
I was on the side of my garage.
So you were outside?
Yes.
So you're able to independently view this in addition to the video?
Mm-hmm.
Prior to you, as you were completing clearing out your driveway, had you seen Mr. Briggs outside at all?
That moment I did not.
The next video, this has a date stamp of the same day, but it's at 13 military time, which would be 1:02 p.m. Can you tell the court what's happening in that video?
That's where my car got stuck on ice out in the road.
And you appear to be walking back to your residence, is that correct?
I went back to the garage to get some salt and cat litter. My aunt was inside the car.
Can you tell the court what's depicted in that video?
I was coming out of the garage, going towards my vehicle to place the cat litter and salt underneath my wheels.
Can you tell the court what's depicted there?
Mr. Briggs in his vehicle coming towards me while I'm standing out by my van.
And you say, Mr. Briggs, did you observe him in the driver's seat?
Yes, I did.
And are you aware that one of the conditions of the probation is for Mr. Briggs not to come within 500 feet of you?
Yes.
Can you describe to the court what's observed in that video?
That was actually Mr. Briggs passing by my vehicle while I was outside in the back of my car.
Where were you when that happened?
I was at the tail gate of my car is up and I was back there putting the salt in my cabinet there.
And is this the same, is this the video that we saw before where we saw the vehicle approaching, was there one single pass or was there more than one pass?
A single pass.
Can you describe what's depicted in that video?
Just Mr. Briggs going by our house, throwing stone in our driveway.
On that particular occasion, do you know whether or not, where were you when that happened?
That one I was not outside or anything at that time.
So you did not independently observe that? This is just captured by your camera. All right, at this time, I will stop sharing my screen. Can you describe to the court any other issues you've had with Mr. Briggs since he's been sentenced to a term of probation?
Yes, we had a lawsuit going between the HOA, which Mr. Briggs is in charge of, and Tony and myself, my husband. And we ended up having to go to mediation. And so between the two of us, we had to come to an agreement, which we did, and we had it in writing. And that agreement stated that if we had any other disagreements that we could not figure out as regular human beings and talk through it, that we each would have to pick a mediation attorney. And we would have to go back, write a letter what the problem was, and it would get determined who, I guess, is the winner or the loser or whatever. And that goes with everything. Part of the mediation was that myself and Tony were allowed back at the meetings. Mr. Briggs signed everything. Since then, Mr. Briggs has sent letters to our attorney just 2 weeks ago. And then we also received personally from Mr. Briggs's attorney a situation about our garbage cans, a situation about the way we have a tarp on our gazebo protecting our patio furniture. And then he has also sent letters saying that the owners of the subdivision, the majority of them would like us either to obey or to move out of the subdivision. And then he also sent a letter saying that the majority of the homeowners there are not going to show up to the meetings if we don't show up. And all of this stuff was already negotiated in the mediation, but he's continuing to harass us and bully us all the time.
The correspondence that you've received since he was sentenced, has any of that correspondence consisted of a HOA violation, whether it's a monetary fine?
No fine, but he claims that we're in violation of the tarp being around our gazebo, and our attorney said that there's nothing in the bylaws that state that. We already did the.
Judge, I'm gonna object as to your saying whatever their attorney said.
I'll withdraw that.
Well, this is a probation violation hearing. I'm going to allow the witness to testify to what his attorney told him.
Regarding the TARP, let me ask another question. Did you did your attorney at one point respond to the letters regarding the TARP to Mr. Briggs?
She did. And did your attorney address
the consistency or the application of the supposed rule about TARPs?
She did.
What was addressed in that letter?
Judge, I'm going to object as hearsay. I think we have a copy of the letter. I would prefer that the letter be admitted into evidence.
Well, I think it would probably be quicker if I just reviewed the letter and as far as the attorney's opinions, maybe the homeowner's agreement, if you've got a copy of that.
May I approach this?
Sure.
And for the record, the videos that I showed, that was marked as People's Exhibit 1. I'll mark this as People's Exhibit 2. This is a printout of a letter. I've asked Mr. Fleming to review that.
Yes.
Is that a letter that your attorney sent to the attorney for Mr. Briggs, not Mr. David, a different attorney of Mr. Briggs, not the attorney that's here in the courtroom? And in that letter, is it addressed regarding the fact that Mr. Briggs also has parks on his property?
Correct.
I would admit People's Exhibit 2 for what you do.
Objection, Mr. Hubble.
Don't have object, just like the.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Glenn, you referred to some litigation that was resolved between yourself, your husband, and Mr. Briggs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Was there, as part of the HOA, did Mr. Briggs seek to have all the HOA members reimburse the HOA for the legal expenses related to that lawsuit?
He did. I think his goal was to get.
Judge, I'm going to object as to relevance.
Well, this calls for speculation is my problem with it. And but you can have him respond to your question about whether the case was settled or, you know, what the terms of that settlement were.
Was the lawsuit that was between you had a counterclaim against him, is that correct?
We did.
And were all of those claims resolved through the mediation?
They were.
So that case is no longer, is that correct?
Correct.
Did the Mr. Briggs on behalf of the HOA bill HOA members for the legal costs on that?
He did.
Judge, I'm going to object, it's irrelevant. I mean, are we litigating the civil case again? I'll be glad to do that, but I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, I think what Mr. Olson is trying to show is a pattern of harassment, but we are getting pretty far afield from the actual probation violation. And so that point has been established. Do you intend to go deeper into the settlement agreement?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'll move on. Mr. Blunt, how does it make you feel when Mr. Briggs is operating a snowplow in close proximity to you or your husband?
We're sick to our stomach that we're in this position, that we're scared to go outside, that we got to have extra cameras outside, that, you know, if he's told by the court that he's not to do this or that, and he just disobeys and he does exactly what he wants. We're nervous. We shouldn't have to be.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubble, any questions for this witness?
Thank you. Just a second, Your Honor. Mr. Glenn, when you were describing the incident where Briggs allegedly drove his car past your car parked or stuck on the road. You described it as he came by your testimony. Remember that?
Yes.
He just drove by. Remember that?
Which date are you referring to,
This
Mr.
is
Hubble?
the, I believe it was the, towards the end of the various videos, Your Honor. It shows a car in the middle of the road driving up, a truck driving up and driving around the car in the middle of the road. When he,
You're talking about when I was out there and my car was stuck on the ice.
when you were describing it before we saw the videos,
Mhm.
your description of it was that he came by or drove by. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. You had a different statement to the police officer. Do you recall that? You remember telling the police officer that you were stuck in your car in the middle of the road and you went to get salt for under the tires. You remember telling your deputy that?
Yes.
And then he said, well, you were out salting. David flew by him in his plow truck, getting just inches from him before David flew around JR. JR said David was flashing his lights and slamming his plow on the ground in an intimidating manner.
He did flash his lights. He did drop his plow. He lifted it up and he drove right by me when I was standing out there.
But the video doesn't show any of that, does it?
Well, the video didn't show because he was at the other.
Sir, the video doesn't show any of that, does it?
Mr. Hubble, please don't interrupt the answer because he was attempting to answer you.
Your Honor, I was asking him a yes or no question.
Okay, you can fully answer the question. Was not a yes or no. But did you care to add anything to your answer?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hubble.
It's true, isn't it, that the video did not show that behavior? Isn't that true?
True.
This civil case you were referring to, you did come to an agreement at mediation, isn't that true?
True.
And the case was settled,
Yes.
and there were terms of the mediation agreement.
Correct.
And following that, you received a letter from Mr. Briggs' attorney, or your attorney received a letter complaining that you had violated the terms of mediation. Is that true?
Yes.
And you and your attorney disagreed that you were violating the terms.
Yes.
Okay. In the meantime, you this upset you that you were being contacted through your attorney. Isn't that true? You were upset.
Well, yes, we all want this to stop. We're tired of it.
Okay. So you had an agreement, and there was an allegation that you violated the agreement, correct? Just an allegation that you violated the mediation agreement.
On Mr. Briggs' assumption, yes.
Okay. And when his attorney contacted your attorney, you fired your attorney. You didn't.
We did not fire our attorney.
Okay. She's no longer representing you in the case.
We are done with the case. And as she said in the letter to Mr. Briggs, that I am no longer representing Tony and JR,
Okay.
but at any time that they need to rehire me, they will feel fit to.
So at least at this stage, the claim that you were violating the mediation agreement is not resolved.
Say that again?
At this time, the claim that you were violating the mediation agreement with these tarps, that's not resolved. There's just attorneys going back and forth saying, you did it, you did it. So
Because nothing's done the right way, the way it's supposed to be done. If there's a problem, it's supposed to be solved out between the two of us. And it states in there that if we can't, then we have to hire mediation.
Okay.
We shouldn't be, Mr. Briggs should not be sending letters out. He should be coming to us first. If we don't agree, it's stated out in the mediation that we contact the 3 attorneys and we pick one and we go back to mediation. That's how it's supposed to be solved.
But Mr. Briggs can't come and see you, can he? Because he's not supposed to have contact with you outside of
Well,
counsel.
then we go to mediation.
Okay, so.
It's very simple.
Okay, so again, it was your testimony that prior to when Mr. Briggs drove past the car, that he banged the plow on the ground and flashed his lights at you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right.
My aunt was in the car and seen it too.
The instances where you claim that your driveway is being filled up with snow from the plow, those only show an inch or two of snow on them, on the road during that time. Is that true? The videos
It
only
doesn't
show
regardless if it's one snowflake. He's not supposed to plow adjacent to our property.
Excuse me,
or in
Judge,
front
I
of
have
our
an
property.
objection. I believe that was a yes or no answer.
Okay, well, it was non-responsive to the question asked. The question was about how much snow was on the road.
I don't know at that time.
But the videos would actually show how much snow. Never mind. I'll withdraw the question, Judge. I'll withdraw the question. On December 2nd, which is before these videos started, you sent a letter to probation. Do you remember that? Email to probation, I believe it was you.
No, not me.
Okay, it was signed Tony and JR.
My husband wrote it.
Okay, okay. I don't have any further, just a second, Judge. I don't have any further from this witness at this time, Judge.
Mr. Olson, did you have any redirect?
I have one question there. Mr. Bland, is it fair to say that the videos that we just showed in court don't capture everything that you observe? Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
No further questions.
All right, if there's nothing else, then you may step down. And Mr. Olson, do you want to check and see whether Ms. Mogenberg and Mr. Settles want to put something on the record at this time before we go further? Okay. Right, Mr. Olson, do you have additional evidence or witnesses?
I would ask to call Jan Morton, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Morton, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth so help you God?
I do.
And you are Jana Morton, probation officer for Mr. Briggs, is that correct?
That is correct.
Go ahead, Mr. Olson.
Thank you. Ms. Morton, Morton, sorry. Have you had any correspondence with the defendant regarding the issues of plowing in front of the victim's home?
I did. I sent him an email on December 2nd when I received an email from Susie Barchef at the prosecutor's office. She had forwarded me the victim's email. So I emailed Mr. Briggs asking about him plowing in the subdivision.
And did Mr. Briggs respond in an email to you on December 13th?
He originally replied on the 12th. I'm sorry, on the 2nd, December 2nd. And then he sent me another one on the 13th.
On the email on the 13th, did that letter start back to you as, quote, would you please tell the quote victims, end quote, to leave me alone?
Yes, it does.
Can you describe what Mr. Briggs has said to you about the plowing incidents, both in person or by phone or email that he's explained to you?
He denies doing it. He said his wife and son usually snowplow. I know there was one correspondence where I was I had believed when he was sentenced that he was going to use Elmer's for plowing to avoid all of this. And so I asked him about that, and he said everybody was upset about the cost of that, so he went back to snow plowing. But he has denied any contact, or he has denied any of the adjacent plowing to the victim's house.
Did you also inquire his compliance with taking anger management courses?
I did ask him how that was going.
Have you received any confirmation that he's been attending anger management?
Yes, the last confirmation I have is from December 23rd. He's completed 5 of the 12 sessions.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
No questions of this witness, Judge.
Okay, any additional evidence or witnesses, Mr. Olson?
Not for the people, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubble, I do not see any other participants on my Zoom call here. You said you were expecting a witness to appear by Zoom?
I'll work with or without that witness, Judge.
Okay.
I mean, if, I understood the witness was going to be available by Zoom. If they're not, I did not issue a subpoena.
Okay. All right, then, do you care to offer some testimony then? Right, if you could please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. And if you could please start by telling us your first and last names and spell the last.
Mariah Everhart, Everhardt.
And how are you employed?
Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department as a road patrol deputy.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hubble.
Deputy, you were tasked with investigating this potential probation violation.
Yes.
And you went out to visit the parties, it looks like on December 12th.
Yes.
Okay. And you wrote up a police report. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And you, in the police report, you discussed with GR Mr. Glenn that was just testifying the circumstances regarding when the car was stuck in the middle of the road. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And do you recall what he said to you about how Mr. Briggs was acting or driving?
I do.
And what did he say?
He stated that when he was salting his tires in order to take his aunt to a doctor's appointment, that the car got stuck, he was grabbing salt, and when he grabbed the salt, he came back, started salting the tires, that Mr. Briggs flew by after flashing his lights multiple times and dropping his plow in a harassing manner, and that he flew by very, very close to the vehicle.
And you looked at the video at the time?
I did.
And you also observed the other videos at the time. Would that be fair?
Yes.
And were you able to identify any driver, who the driver might have been in those videos?
I was not.
The you live on a county road or a city road?
I do not.
Okay. Have you ever had a problem with the snow plows coming by and filling your driveway with snow after you plowed it out?
Yes.
So you went back then and talked to David Briggs and his wife, Mary. Do you recall that?
I do.
And they gave you their version of the situation.
Yes.
And basically denied any violations.
Correct.
And you went back to talk to the complainants after that. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you went back to talk to them to say, okay, what's going on? What's your side of the story? How did this all start? That be fair?
Yes.
And what did they say to you?
They said that it's been going on for a little while and that they have been trying to get this to stop. He's not allowed. They showed me the paperwork for the probation and the PPO, the PPO, and all the different requirements. And the adjacent to property is not supposed to be plowing, and that he's been blowing the snow in their driveways as soon as they're done plowing, along with contacting lawyers, lawyer to lawyer, and they no longer have that lawyer available. They're no longer paying for that lawyer. And that they're just tired of pretty much the harassment going on.
Okay. So were they incorporating this purported harassment as part of the lawyer to lawyer communications?
Yes.
So that was at least a motivation for them of why they were being harassed.
Yes.
I don't have any further this witness.
Mr. Olson, any questions for people? All right, you may step down. Do you have any additional witnesses? Go ahead.
Mary Briggs.
And you are Mary Briggs, the defendant's wife, is that correct?
Correct.
Go ahead, Mr. Hubble.
Ms. Briggs, you had a chance to be in court this morning and watch all the videos?
Yes.
Okay. Do you work outside of the home?
Yes.
Where do you work?
Townhouse Lane, South London.
And how many days a week do you work?
5 to 6 days.
What time do you normally leave?
Time is around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And what time do you get back?
12:30, 1 o'clock.
About the time of the videos?
Yes.
Okay. Which vehicle do you drive?
I drive my white truck.
Is it
Plow truck.
Is it the plow truck?
Yes, it is.
Is that the truck that's used to plow the subdivision?
Yes.
Do you drive that pretty much every day to and from work?
Every day.
Okay. Do you, when there's an inch or two of snow on the road, do you typically drop your plow going out and then again coming back in?
Every day.
And why do you do that?
Keep the sub clean.
Okay. Does it make it easier when David would have to do the more technical plowing?
Yes.
Do you or David charge the homeowners association for that additional service?
No.
Do you believe that you were the one driving the vehicle on the videos where it shows the plow going past there?
I know I was.
Okay. It shows the plow driving, I want to say, on the side of the road next to their house. Would that be when you're coming back home?
Yes.
And so that would be the normal side of the road you're on, correct? So you come into the subdivision, there's a couple of inches of snow on the ground. What do?
I drop the plow in the middle of the road and let me run the truck.
And do you go all the way to the end?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Down the cul-de-sac.
And have you been doing that for how long?
Since we've been doing subdivision, 20-some years.
Okay.
I've been plowing for 30.
Okay, so you are testifying, you're sure it was you that was driving that truck?
I'm positive it was me.
Okay. Nothing further from this witness at this time.
Mr. Olson.
Ms. Briggs, what do you do at Townhouse Lane?
I plow.
Is that a plowing service or is it a location?
We have rentals and I go to work and I clean the rentals and plow the complex.
So it's an apartment complex that you plow out? And then, and you plow that starting at 4 a.m. and you return back to the neighborhood around 12:30 or 1?
If it needs plowing, I'll go up there and I'll start plowing. If not, then I'll start working in the units and then come home around that time. So, yes.
You indicated that you plow for the HOA, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
The HOA, who's the president of the HOA?
My husband.
And who's on the board of the HOA? Is there a board of directors? Sorry to interrupt you. Is there a board of directors?
Yes.
How many people are on that board?
3.
And do those other members have voting authority?
Yes.
And is Merry Chris is a private road, is that correct?
Correct.
The HOA is responsible for plowing that road, is that correct?
Correct.
And in years past, Mr. Briggs has plowed Merry Chris Road on behalf of the HOA, is that correct? And you're now plowing the roads, you said?
I have plowed for years on Merry Chris Road. When he went deer hunting, I plowed.
When you would plow, you would be acting basically as an agent of Mr. Briggs as president of the HOA, isn't that correct?
As an agent, I don't get paid.
But you're doing it at
I'm doing it as a favor.
as a favor to him. It's his obligation to have the road plowed.
People so they can get in and out. And then also if you need an ambulance or a fire truck to make sure that they can get down. There's the garbage people that you have to, they're coming. There's the meal delivery person that has to get down there too, so.
Most of those deliveries and things like that, those would happen sometimes in the mornings, is that correct?
Pardon me?
Those types of activities could happen in the morning, is that correct?
Correct.
You're indicating that you typically wouldn't plow at least at the earliest until 12:30 or 1 p.m., is that correct?
No, if you got a snowstorm, you're gonna go out there and start plowing right away.
Okay, I misunderstood. You indicated you went to work, you would go to work every day at 4 or 5 a.m.
Yes, I had departments that I was getting available, ready to get rent out, because I knew we were going to go to Florida. So I'm a morning person. I get up early in the morning and I go and plow at departments and also clean the units, and then I'm home around 1 o'clock.
When is it you typically plow Merry Chris Lane? What time of day?
In the morning when I leave for work, and then on the way home when I come home from work.
So you plow early in the morning before you head to work.
Right.
You indicated you're doing this for free, is that correct?
Right.
You live with Mr. Briggs, I presume. In the past, has Mr. Briggs charged the HOA for plowing services?
Yes.
And did he charge for services this year?
Yes.
So you're not being compensated, but Mr. Briggs is for your plowing, is that correct? The video, you said that you were the driver depicted in those videos, is that correct?
All except for the one where we had JR was in the middle, where I was in the truck with him. Every time he was following the subdivision, I was in the truck.
Okay, so when you previously testified that it was you plowing, that applied to only some of those videos, is that correct?
I can swear I was in the videos, all except for that one. We were both in the truck and JR was in the middle of the road.
And the person in the driver's seat was your husband, Mr. Briggs, is that correct?
Correct.
So the videos that we see of the plow, Mr. Blem in the road with the white car, that series of videos, your husband's driving.
Only that one, and he had the plow lifted up and went down the cul-de-sac, and I asked him, I said, hey, the cul-de-sac is getting pretty full, can you go and plow it? Because I didn't want to get stuck. So he did. We went and got in the truck and we went down there and plowed it. In the meantime, one of the older neighbors, he was 86 years old, he asked, could we plow him out because there was a big snowstorm and his wife was having surgery. So we plowed his driveway out also. When we came back, JR stuck in the middle of the road.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness, that this is non-responsive to my question. Now we're getting to a narrative that's being voluntary.
I kind of lost track of what was the question.
I confirmed that it was her husband driving the car in that incident.
So why don't you go ahead and ask another question then?
Ms. Briggs, so the video that's shown where Mr. Blem is out on the road, you're in the passenger seat, Mr. Briggs is driving the snowplow, is that correct?
Yes, he is, but the plow.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And it just as could have well been you in the driver's seat and Mr. Briggs not in the truck at all, is that correct?
I guess.
There is, knowing the history and the conditions that your husband has, and the fact that you claim to plow by yourself, you could have been plowing that day without Mr. Briggs in the truck at all, isn't that correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubble.
Trying to apologize to the court for not clarifying a couple things. Ms. Briggs, Would it be fair to say that you don't do the more intensive technical plowing of the subdivision?
Yes.
That Mr. Briggs does? If there's 12 inches of snow, do you do the plowing? Do you plow when there's a big snowstorm?
No.
Okay, so the plowing we're referring to is you driving to work and there's a couple inches of snow.
Correct.
And you drop your plow at 4 a.m. and going out. And the videos of you dropping your plow around noon, coming back.
Correct.
All right. And it was brought out that you are charging the homeowners association. You charge them by the pass, am I correct?
By the job.
By the job. So every time David drops the plow,
Yes.
they get a bill. When you drop the plow, do they get a bill?
No.
Okay, so that's what you meant, that you're providing that service gratis to the residents.
Correct.
And so you are acknowledging that David was driving the truck on the videos which show him driving, I'll say, slowly past the car in the middle of the road.
Yes.
So it's your testimony those other videos are actually of you driving.
All right, any other evidence or Mr. Olson, I guess, did you have any other questions?
No follow-up.
No, okay, you may step down then, ma'am, and
Mr. Briggs, please state your name.
all right, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Right, and you are David Briggs Jr., the defendant in this case, correct? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hubble.
Mr. Briggs, since you were ordered by the court not to drop the plow in front of the complaining witness's driveway, have you ever done that? Did you drive?
Never, not once.
How do you handle that when you were plowing?
I drive up to it, I lift up, go past them, drop it down, keep going.
Okay. As a result of this complaints, are you providing the snow plowing service anymore?
No, I had emailed Jenna and asked her, is my late plowing a violation? And I didn't hear back from her, and then she said I got violated, I hired others. I don't want no confrontation, I don't want any problems.
But you are, when the video showing the truck driving past their car in the road, you heard the testimony claiming that you banged the plow on the ground and flashed your lights. Did you do that?
No.
Did you in any way attempt or intend to intimidate them?
No.
I don't have anything further at this time, Judge.
Mr. Olson.
Mr. Briggs, you and your wife testified that you do technical plowing in the neighborhood, is that correct?
Yeah, I clean up the edges.
And the way that the plowing occurs, what you just testified to is that when you approach Mr. Blem and Mr. Quinona's property, you lift up the plow,
yeah,
and then you pass by it and then you drop after there.
Right.
So if in those circumstances, their stretch of the road isn't being plowed at that time?
Right. Well, till Mary makes her pass when she goes to work and comes home.
So there's a time gap between that. Is there any
pictures of it, yeah.
So their part of the road doesn't get plowed until whenever your wife gets around to it. Is that correct?
That's what they requested.
Is it?
Yes.
They requested that their portion of the road not be plowed at all?
Well, when I got sentenced, you brought up the point about them being intimidated about doing it, and the judge ordered that I couldn't plow adjacent, so I stopped it.
Do you recall at your sentencing indicating that you were going to contract out plowing again this year and it wouldn't be a problem?
I just don't recall what I said.
It was you, and you acknowledged you were driving the snow plow in the instance that we saw in the video where Mr. Blem is out on the road in his car. Is that correct?
Correct. I was not plowing the subdivision. I was going out to the county cul-de-sac to clean that up. and then did our friend's driveway. I was in the up position when you saw that picture, and the pounding wasn't on the road, it was me bringing the wing out. It doesn't make a noise when you drop the plow because it just falls hydraulically. I brought the wing out so I could make myself smaller to get by him. That was the clang you heard, the bang. And I wasn't trying to intimidate him. And the light flashing was probably the plow coming up in front of the light. I don't know. I thought this was all over back last fall. And when they violated that one thing at mediation, then I go, oh no, here we start all over again. That's why I had my wife ride with me every single time I plowed as my witness, because I never plowed adjacent to their property one time.
Of other neighbors, other members of your HOA subdivision complained to you about your plowing?
No, never once. They're the only ones.
They're the only ones.
When they ditched their grass last fall.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Briggs has asked you to review that, and you recognize the content of that letter?
I got a stack of paper that tall. I don't remember this.
Okay, you don't remember it?
No.
Okay. You don't remember it, but do you have any basis to believe that this isn't an actual letter that you received in December of 2023?
Those people last summer begged me to plow.
That wasn't the question.
Oh.
Do you have any reason to doubt that this is a correspondence between one of?
I don't remember the bottom part, but the top part I do. But the bottom part, I remember that.
Do you have any reason to dispute that this was a response back to your letter to all the residents?
What was the date on that?
December 12th, 2023.
2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, I get so many letters. I guess I don't have any reason not to believe that.
And in this letter, are you familiar with Dennis and Sue Erdman?
Yes.
And in this letter, is this a letter where they are complaining to you about your plowing?
That's not what the majority of that letter is about.
Do they complain about your plowing?
They complained, yes, that they had just some bumps of dirt. I never heard that before. Bumps of dirt.
And is what precipitated that was you telling other residents that through the states and move them further back?
Correct.
And in the letter from Dennis and Sue Erdman, they say, we do not wish to have the edge of our grass torn up and find clumps of sod in our ditch and our driveway. We have already clogged our snow blower. Number two, we have sprinkler heads abutting the pavement and do not wish to have them damaged. Number three, we do not wish to have the doors to our mailbox blown out. I've already had to repair bolts that hold the mailbox to the wooden post. And number four, not scraping to the very edge of the grass line helps preserve the road shoulder and minimize the amount of repairs needed in the future. That's what they indicate in the letter. Is that correct?
They may have, yeah.
And then they go on to say, I cannot fathom the reason or your logic of why you would dictate to us where to place our snow sticks along the edge of our driveway.
I wasn't dictating. If you read the letter really.
That's what they said though.
Right, but I was not dictating. They needed to do those things that I was gonna plow for nothing. I got $1,200 to my truck, damages from those stakes to my truck.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 4. It's a letter that you received in July of 2024.
Well, part of it.
That's a letter that you received, is that correct?
No, I don't recall this letter either. I mean, what are you wanting me to remember?
I'm asking you if you recall receiving that letter.
No, I do not recall seeing this letter. There's two groups of people in our association, and they
Judge, I'm gonna object.
each other and some of them.
Judge, I'm gonna object, is not responsive.
Okay, well, he's trying to explain why he might not know about that letter, but
That's fine.
yeah, let's move on, Mr. Olson.
You've never seen this letter.
I can't recall that letter, but like I was saying.
Okay, I think if he doesn't recall the letter, he doesn't recall the letter. If there's a basis for admitting it, I'll hear that, but this witness doesn't recall it.
Okay. You don't like Mr. Quinones and Mr. Blum, isn't that fair to say?
They don't bother me a bit.
They don't bother you a bit?
Not a bit. I thought this was over last fall, and we were in mediation, and they said we said, what about the green tarps? And they said, it's just temporary. This fall, they went right back up again. My lawyer wrote a letter to their lawyer saying, you said temporary. They are all winter. He says, no, that's seasonal. That's what this is all about. I have no problems with them at all.
Do you have tarps on your property in the winter
I
time?
have no tarps 16 feet in the air.
Do you have tarps on your property?
I have no tarps 16 feet in the air.
Do you have tarps on your property?
Everybody does.
Okay.
They're on the ground where you can't see them from 200 feet away.
Does Mr. Quinones and Mr. Brown's sexual orientation have anything to do with the way you're treating them?
Not a bit. We have a gay guy on our board, which I was instigating to have him on the board. We rent to gay people. We go to dinner with gay people. I resent that.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hubble, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down.
I have no further evidence to present, Judge. I don't believe the witness ever made it back on.
Let me check here. No.
Okay.
Mr. Olson, anything else?
Judge, I was asking, I either move to admit People's Exhibit 4 or I can authenticate through a witness.
Judge, he doesn't remember it. I think it's not really, we're litigating a civil case.
Okay, this has to do with what, tarps or?
Tarps, yeah, it's the civil case.
Snowplow?
It has to do with what other members of the HOA are, how they're viewing the interaction between the victims and the defendant.
Okay, well, if you want to call a witness to establish the authenticity of the letter, that's fine.
We can call Jose Quinones.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and have a seat. All right, and you are Jose Quinones. Could you please spell the last name?
Quinones.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Olson.
Mr. Quinones, I'm going to show you what's been marked People's Exhibit 4. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
It's a letter that it was given to us by Sue and Dennis, just across from us.
Is it a copy of an email or is it a letter?
It's a letter that they have to us.
Were you carbon copied on that letter?
No, they just handed us.
Okay. Well, at the top, does it show who the recipients are?
Yes, sir. Actually, all the neighbors.
Okay. Your Honor, I move to admit People's Exhibit 4.
Judge, I object, my objection is that we're being drawn into litigating
Okay.
the civil issue. It's not material.
Okay, well, this is the thing. I don't know anything about the contents of the letter, so I don't know what the relevance is. So I'm going to ask Mr. Olson to tell me what the relevance of the letter is.
Your Honor, the relevance is it puts the defendant on notice that other residents are expressing dissatisfaction with how he's treating Mr. Quinones and Mr. Blem, and their observations
as far as the snow plowing goes, or something else.
Pretty much everything, Your Honor. Maybe I'll just do this, Your Honor, if I can. Mr. Blem, Mr. Quinones, on the first paragraph there, what does it say? This is a letter written by Dan and Sue Erden, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then on paragraph 1 there, are they addressing, what matter are they writing to Mr. Briggs about?
Which one you know?
On item number 1.
We do not agree to pay the special assessment or any further assessment for legal costs against the Quinones family. These costs are due to a personal vendetta between Dave and the Quinones. None of the other resident has any problem with the Quinones family or the property.
Judge, I continue my objection. I don't know how it's relevant that, you know, we know there's a civil dispute going on. We have some sense that somehow it's some motivation for why we're here, but we shouldn't be in the position of bringing all that in, because the only thing that's relevant is, was he driving the vehicle in violation?
Okay, so I'm going to allow the portion of the letter that was testified to in. There's good reason to believe it's authenticity. These are neighbors, as even the defendant acknowledges. They are apparently involved with in this whole issue as members of the homeowners association, and the defendant singling them out in some way differently than the other members of the homeowners association is relevant. You can make your argument about that, but I'm going to allow that portion of the letter in.
Your Honor, if I may, there's another paragraph that talks about the snow plowing for this upcoming season, which is what we're dealing with.
This is a letter from July 2024, correct? Okay, go ahead.
Paragraph 2, can you read paragraph 2 that addresses the snow plowing?
We do not agree to special assessment for an overrun on the budget for snow plowing. If they want to outsource the snow plowing, that is great, but we do not need the platinum plan with Elmer. In addition to high prices, they utilize very large and heavy trucks, which are not needed and are contributing to excess wear and tear of the road. We recommend getting quotes from other operators to select one with more reasonable cost. The overrun for winter 2024 should be taken out of the association savings account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Objections, Mr.
I renew
Hubbell?
my objection, Judge.
Okay, once again, I do find the statement to be authentic and relevant, so I'll admit that portion of the letter as well. Anything else, Mr. Olson?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Did you have any questions for this witness, Mr. Olson or Hubbell?
Close enough, Judge. It's getting late. No, Your Honor, I did not.
All right, you may step down. Anything else?
Not from us, Your Honor.
Okay, I want to recall the officer for a moment. And you're still under oath, Deputy Everhart, so if you could take the stand there. When you question the Briggs about the complaint that was made by the Quinones, did Mr. Briggs ever indicate that it was his wife driving the plow truck?
He did.
And did she also confirm that she was the one driving the plow truck?
She did, Your Honor.
Did they tell you that Mr. Briggs was driving on the December 4th incident where Mr. Quinones' truck got stranded in the road?
They did say that Mr. Briggs was driving and that Mrs. Briggs was in the passenger seat.
Okay, so they confirmed Mr. Briggs was driving on that occasion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions, but do you have any questions based on the officer's testimony?
I do not.
Or you, Mr. Olson?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you're all set. You may step down. If there's nothing else evidence-wise, then argument, Mr. Olson?
Judge, the court may recall the sentencing in this case. My recollection was that Mr. Briggs is going to be farming out the snow plowing for this year so that we wouldn't have any further interaction or altercations. And what we've seen is that's not been the case. There was a representation made to the probation office that he's not been doing any snow plowing. And then we hear from the witness stand that actually he was in fact driving the snow plow on one of those occasions. To the extent that his wife is snow plowing, she's doing it at the behest of him. He's not outsourced this. And then Mr. Blem's testimony of just a pattern of him clearing the driveway and then him personally observing through his personal observations above and beyond the video of Mr. Briggs operating the snowplow. We would submit that he has been violating the terms of probation not to snowplow adjacent to their property. So we would ask the court to take appropriate action.
Mr. Hubble.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, clearly you can't tell in the video who is driving. The video doesn't show that. The court's order was for, was not preventing my client from plowing the subdivision. Certainly, candidly, I wish he wishes he'd hired helpers, but he didn't. The court's order was to not plow in front of their driveway. He believes he honored that. If in fact his wife was plowing as she testified, you can see in the videos only show an inch or two of snow. They're not showing, you know, a major snowfall. I don't believe that the court's order prohibited his wife from plowing as she did. Again, as she said, she's trying to do people a favor. She's not trying to violate the court's order. In addition, Judge, I think it's instructive. Mr. Blend was testifying. He testified that my client drove past the car, the one in the middle of the road. When he talked to the police officer, however, he had a whole different scenario. He claimed that there was aggressive actions, that he flew by the car, etc. The video doesn't show that, Judge. It clearly doesn't. He was exaggerating. This whole thing is a continuation, unfortunately, of the civil matters between these people. You know, it's unfortunate, but I don't believe that Mrs. Briggs driving the plow truck when there's an inch or two of snow, trying to keep the road a little cleaner, is a violation of probation. I don't believe that prosecutors carried their burden. Thank you.
All right, so it was also my understanding that the defendant was going to contract out the plowing, and the idea that the defendant's wife was going to do the plowing was never discussed. I think it would have shown very poor judgment for that to have happened, even though as a technical matter, I suppose the court did, I don't have any control over Mrs. Briggs. And I guess if you want to apply the terms of the probation order in a very technical manner, maybe that was okay. But the poor judgment in doing that, I have to decide whether it's more likely it happened the way the prosecutor described, or whether it's more likely it happened the way the defendant says it happened. And so the poor judgment that would indicate to me is at least some evidence that it happened more likely the way the prosecutor argues. But in addition to that, we do know that on the December 4th date, it was in fact the defendant who was driving the truck on at about the same time as it's been testified that it's always Mrs. Briggs who's driving the truck. But no, not on that occasion. Everyone now agrees it was in fact the defendant who was plowing. That is more evidence that on the December 3rd incident, where it's absolutely clear on the video that the truck is plowing in front of the driveway, irregardless of what you can see on the December 4th video, the driver of the truck was obviously plowing on that occasion with no regard at all for this court's order. And again, if that was Mrs. Briggs doing the plowing, that would have shown extremely poor judgment to think that she could do that in the defendant's truck or the truck that was the subject of the court's order originally in this case, and why we're here. In addition, we know that the defendant is compensated when he plows, but apparently Mrs. Briggs decided to do this on her own. That is further evidence that it's more likely that the incident occurred the way the prosecutor argues. And something that was very curious to me is Mrs. Briggs testifying that she does not do the more technical or heavy plowing, but she's been doing this for 20 or 30 years. I think she said 30 years, 20 years in this particular subdivision. That just strikes me as very odd that anyone that's been plowing for 30 years is scared off by heavy snowstorms. It just doesn't add up. And so for all of those reasons, I do find that the defendant was the driver of the car on all of these occasions. And therefore, the question is, what is an appropriate sentence? So Mr. Hubble, do you care to make any argument on that?
Well, Your Honor, I'm aware of what the recommendation is. I don't think it's necessary, but you know, you've made your ruling, and you know, I don't think any further jail time is needed. I think my client has already indicated he's hired Elmer's. He wants this to be done with and over with. We would ask that just redo probation without a jail sentence.
Mr. Olson.
So we would ask that we agree with the recommendation from the probation department. There needs to be some consequences for this type of action. So we would ask the court to impose a jail sentence.
So the testimony of Mr. Quinones, I think he goes by JR, was that the defendant not only did the plowing, but also flashed his lights, lowered the plow in an aggressive manner. Now that was not part of the tape, but I do accept the testimony of that witness. And the defendant also blatantly ignored this court's order. And so now that he's facing possible jail time, he finally gets a contractor to do the plowing, as he should have at the beginning of all this. And it's a little too late. And so I think it's important to continue the probation so that he complies with these conditions. But I do think Ms. Morton's recommendation of 5 days in jail is appropriate. And so that's what we're going to do. And hopefully he will get the idea that his arrogance and his ignoring the court's order is not going to pay off. So that's it.
Candidate's wife. We're not trying to violate it. This also, this is his.
Well,
give it to his wife or give it to me.
That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is how you mess around with the judge's orders and find out what he means when he says follow my orders. And if you don't, you're going to jail. That's how it happens. Even when it's just for something as mild as, you know, plowing the snow off of the road, which seemed on the face, when you look at all of the things, it's like, that's a neighborly thing, right? I mean, you're just kind of doing your neighbors a favor until they say, you're not doing me a favor and I want you to stop. And then it becomes harassment and the judge says you can't do it anymore. And you ignore those orders because you think, hey, I'm just doing them a favor and I'm better than all that. And then, hey, you end up in jail for 5 days. That's how that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a good one today. We've had some great cases. I am your Lone Wolf Usul. I am your host for these videos here on this channel. And I am your curator for the weekend review, which we do every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the fun things. And I'll be here and around and look for my videos today, tomorrow, and every day to come. We'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a good day. Peace out. Oh yeah, you can't not say bye to Carla and Barry and Magic and Mama and Gimbal and Courtney, Debbie, everybody, Patrick. I don't even know who I've said their names not anymore. Eileen's out there somewhere. I'm sure you are. Fuguju, I see you. Omni, did I say your name? Well, I did now. Y'all have a great day. Thank y'all for coming out. See y'all next time. See you Monday. See you Monday in the chat. Sure. Have a good afternoon.